before we really get into it, we want to get our body just a little bit warm and ready for action. Now, warm-ups don't need to be as complicated as most people make them, so all we're going to do is get onto the balls of our feet and just start to bounce up and down a little bit. And bouncing and shaking actions are great ways to get ready for the kind of movement that we're going to be doing in this session. So bounce up and down a couple of times, look over one shoulder as you do it, look over the other shoulder as you do it. Keep that going for 30-40 seconds or so and just let everything get nice and loose and comfortable and warm. Okay, so we're going to stop and now we're going to shake out our limbs. One arm at a time, we're going to give that a good shake out. We're looking for maximal movement for minimal effort. So just looking for that really efficient shake out through one arm and then the same thing out through the other arm. I'm just leaning over a little bit to let the arm dangle freely in space. I don't end up whacking it into my body. And just give the knee a little shake out side to side and forward and backwards. And then we're just going to do that finally on the other leg, side to side, forward and backwards. Just shaking it out, getting it ready for a bit of action. Okay, so good humans are built on solid foundations. So we're going to be spending quite a bit of time in these early phases talking about feet and ankles. Because if your feet and ankles don't move well, it's really hard for the rest of your body to perform to its maximum potential. So we want to get your feet as bendy as hell and we want to get them tough as hell because that's what it takes to build an awesome mover on top of it. Okay, so exercise number one. Stand with your feet right underneath you and are you ready for it? All we're going to do is pop a heel. Okay, so we're going to pop the heel as high in the air as we can. We're going to make sure we're leaving all of the toes down on the floor. We want to feel the bend across the joints of the toes as we do that. And if we lift the heel really high, we can feel the calf muscle getting short and going into a little bit of a cramp. Hold it for a few seconds and then slowly put it back down again. Alternate between one leg and the other. So lift the other leg up now, hold that position for a few seconds, heel high, toes down, calf looking for cramp, waking up those toes. And we'll do that once more on each foot. So on back to the one you started with, we're going to get up into that high heel position. And if that feels really easy and there's no pain, we're going to give the knee a little bit of a wiggle side to side, just so we feel those forces flex and move across the toes. Okay, that's enough of that. Pop that heel down and we'll go for that last foot. So back up again and then just a little wiggle of the knee side to side if there's no pain or restriction, just going through that basic heel peel movement. Okay, next one, I'll just turn sideways so you can see this well. We're going to pull down through the tops of the toes. So you're going to put the top side of your toes down on the floor behind you and then you're going to press a little bit of weight into that to really feel those toes stretch down into a flexed position. So hold that stretch on for 20 or 30 seconds. And then take your foot out of that and pop it into the other side. So same stretch on the other side. Tops of the toes down into the mat, relaxing the front of the ankle. Wobbling. Bend the knee a little bit to put some weight into that leg and give that top of foot, seldom stretched area, a really good pull out. Any stretch that's worth doing, we want to do it at least 2 times, and that's what we'll tend to do during the follow along. If you want to pause and do an extra couple of sets of any exercise at any point, that's a really good idea. So we'll do that once more on each foot. Toe pull position, knee slightly soft, legs out behind, dropping into the front leg and just feeling that pull down through the front part of the foot right up through the ankle. And again, I can add a little wiggle of the heel if everything's feeling okay, just to make sure I'm sweeping through the whole range of the tissue. And onto the other side now, last one. So down into that position, and then if everything's feeling okay, a little wiggle of the heel side to side to really get those toes moving. Brilliant. Okay, come back to the middle, give those feet a little bit of a shake out. So moving up, we go from the toes into the ankles, and we're going to use this upright squat where with my feet directly underneath my hips and my toes pretty much facing forward, but a little bit here or there in terms of angles we're not going to worry about at this stage. And in that position, I'm going to sink down, pushing my knees forward, bending at the ankles, trying to find the end of the ankles as the stop point of the movement. And I'm going to go down to the bottom. We'll hold there for 3 good breaths in and out. It's a great idea when you're doing mobility exercise. Think rather than timing in seconds, think about staying in a position for a number of breaths. It makes sure you're breathing and it makes sure you're not working too hard, because all of this stuff shouldn't be too strenuous. So we're going to drop into that one more time, down to the bottom. Keep the back dead upright. Don't let the bum shoot out behind you. Don't let the hips scoop underneath you. Just drop right down as far as your ankles will take you. Going to stay in that position for a few seconds and just gently lean from side to side so each ankle gets an extra special stretch of its own. So do that 4 or 5 times from one side to the other. Brilliant. Okay, so now we're going to go into a T-stance position. So your back leg's going to be turned out and your front leg's going to be facing forward. It's this front leg we're paying attention to. And this exercise is called a knee circle. We'll be using this lots in the program, so this is just the easy version of this exercise. Think about it as one exercise that gives our leg a real 3-dimensional move that's good for it at the foot and ankle, at the knee, and up into the hip as well. So I'm starting with my leg slightly in front of me, and so you want to be able to see your hip, your knee, and your foot all in line, and your knees nice and straight. We're going to draw a circle in the air with the kneecap, and it's horizontal, and this extended position is the back of the circle. So from your start position, you're going to push your knee slightly inwards as it bends, and you're going to scoop round the inside of the circle through that front position where the ankle's pretty much fully bent. And we're going to keep the knee moving to the outside and come right round to complete that circular movement. So do that a couple of times. The golden rule is the whole of the sole stays down on the floor as you do it. We want to keep the foot relaxed so that it can move, but sticky enough to the floor that it actually stays down. So the upper limit to going inward is the little toe flying off the floor, and the outer limit to it going outward is the big toe coming off the floor. So we want to make sure the big toe, the little toe, and the heel stay down on the floor throughout this circular movement. So if you've been turning clockwise, I want you to pause and turn the other way, and vice versa. So whichever way you were going, reverse that circle and do 3 or 4 circles in the other direction. So that's a knee circle, brilliant for our 3-dimensional mobility up and down the leg. There's no joint left out of this movement. Okay, change legs. So again, we're in a T. The whole of the sole is on the floor, the foot is relaxed, the knee is straight, and from there we're going to start circling horizontally at the kneecap, keeping the foot down on the floor, feeling the arch move up and down as we go through the inner and outer sides of the circle, feeling the ankle flex and extend as we go forward and backwards through the circle, and then pay attention to what's happening up at your hip. Are you being dragged around in the circle at the head, or is your hip doing the work? As we get better at these, we want to think about keeping the head and the body nice and still so that the leg's doing all the circle. So we want to really get that hip involved. Okay, pause, reverse direction, and go round the other way round the circle for another 5 repetitions. 2, 3, 4. So last circle, back around. And this is such a utilitarian exercise, brilliant as a quick warm-up on the beach, as we've just done it there, but we can also do double knee circles where from this position I can ask both kneecaps to draw the circle in the air at the same time. And it's just a fantastic way to get those leg joints nice and loose and limber. So standing in a neutral stance position, you're going to pop one heel out to where your toe just was. So it's like a little step forward and a kick out onto the heel. Stick a hand on your hip. That hand is on the hip socket bone and your leg is going to rotate. So toes up, knees straight, and now you're going to reach your big toe as far round as you can to the inside, trying to keep the hand at the top of the leg nice and still, so we don't want to be pulling round like this. We want to just be spinning the hip like that. So spin to the inside, spin to the outside. The mission is to get as much rotation out of the leg without dragging the body along with it. And we're going to go for about 5 to 6 taps to the inside and 5 to 6 taps to the outside, trying to maintain stillness in the body, straightness in the knee, and get that hip rotating. Okay, so you should be nearly finished with that leg. Couple more reps. A lot of these exercises think it's more about the journey than the destination, so we're not massively interested in holding end range positions. We're interested in consciously and carefully moving through the range of motion. Okay, so on to the other leg now. Heel kicks forward to where the toe was, knee rests nice and straight, hand goes on the hip. From there we're going to set the hip in motion, rotating to reach right round with the little toe to the outside, and then round with the big toe to the inside. And again we're going to go for a round about, 6 taps to either side. With all movement, it is more important that we do it well than we do the exact number of repetitions. So just a few turns either way is what we're after. If you're a bit of a slow coach, you might only get 4 or 5 in, but don't go too quick. We don't want to be banging these out too fast. What happens then is we tense up and the rest of the body gets involved. This is about stressing each individual bit locally so that we really get them all wriggling free. Spines are full of joints. They are designed to bend, flex and move in 3 dimensions, and we absolutely want to encourage that during the SurFit program. So for this, we're going to stand with our feet nice and wide, but now parallel as well. So we don't want to be too turned out like this. I want to be as far as I can, wide but parallel. Little bit of knee bend, and that you're going to think about keeping yourself nice and still below the waist. I want my legs into this position and then they're just going to stay in this position. Hands up to crossed arms or folded arms, it doesn't really matter. You just want to put your arms out the way for this movement, and then from there we're going to think about using this spine as a rod to flex forward, but only as far as you can go, keeping your bum completely still. So we want to think I am here in that stance position, that wide horse stance position, obvious name, like you're sitting on a horse, and keeping that tailbone down and under. From there, I'm going to flex to here, but not keep going into the hips and the pelvis like this. So you're going to bend forward and squeeze out and stretch your back muscles, and then you're going to arch back. And we're looking at how far you can move your spine before your hips and your backside want to join in with the movement. 3 to 5 forwards and 3 to 5 backward movements for me. Nice and slow, arms staying crossed, thinking about getting the whole spine to arch and then the whole spine to curl. Curling is called flexion and arching is called extension. Words mean the same thing, whichever one we choose. So extended, arched, upwardly arcing spine, or flexed, curled, downwardly curving spine. And we want to feel comfortable and mobile through both of those movements. Staying in the same basic position, we're going to stop bending forwards and backwards, and we're going to start bending side to side. So you're just going to let your head fall as far as you can over to one side. Stretch out your side muscle here, relax into the position, try and get your head to horizontal, and then you're going to come back up and go over to the other side. And again, just like when we're going forward and backwards, I'm working hard to try and keep my bum nice and still as I do this. Don't go into pain, don't go into where you have to bodge the movement. So if after a certain amount of side bending you notice your body starts to rotate, that's the end of your side bend range of motion, and that's what you want to work on improving. So work on what you can do, not what you can do with cheating compensations on the end of the movement. Okay, that's enough side to side. Now we're going to stand up and we're going to do our final spinal motion, which is just a twist as far as you can. So you're trying to leave your knees forward, you're trying to turn your elbows one direction, head goes in the same direction, and you're going to breathe in that end range position for 3 or 4 breaths. So breathe with me, and out, and in, and long sigh out. Every out breath is an opportunity to move a little further into the stretch. One more breath. And around. And now we're going to rotate the other way. So knees stay forward, shoulders twist, head twists, and then I stay there and take 3 to 5 good breaths. So in, and long sigh out, and in, long sigh out, breathe in, one more long sigh out, push round, try and get a couple of extra degrees of rotation, stay there for 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax back to the middle. So just do that rotation one more time, but this time we're going to just do it as a smooth, slightly quicker movement. So bending at those knees, hands in this position here, and I'm just going to turn to the end of that range and then turn fully to the other end of that range. And let's go 5 times either way. 2, 3, 4, last one, 5. Lovely. Get that spine moving, people. One of the most important places that we can be mobile. But as a surfer, our shoulders and our arms are a kind of big deal as well. So this next one's all about getting your shoulder blade moving. So you're going to hold your hand out in front of you, and you're going to put your other hand on your solar plexus right in the center of your chest. This hand's going to try and stay still. This shoulder blade's going to try and climb as high as it can, and then it's going to try and drop as low as it can. So your hand stays relatively still, your shoulder shrugs up, elbow stays straight, spine stays still, hand on sternum doesn't move, the shoulder is high, hold that position for a few seconds, and now we're going to drop the shoulder down as low as we can, and we're going to hold that bottom position for a few seconds. So your scapula, your shoulder blade, is an elevator. Take it to the top, as far up the rib cage as you can make it slide, and now take it down as far as you can slide. And we're thinking about how difficult you find this movement, how much your elbow wants to twitch, how much your body wants to lean. This should be all about the shoulder blade moving straight up and straight down. Okay, so now you've had a go up and down, we're going to have a go at forward and backwards. So we're looking to pull the shoulder blade back in space as far as we can, and then shunt it forward as far as we can. And we want to get all of that movement coming from the arm. I don't want to drift into rotation of the body as we're doing this. So do one thing well, push the arm right out, hold that end range position for a couple of seconds, and now pull it right back. Just keep that movement sliding smoothly from fully back to fully forward, and watching for elbow bend and spinal movements as we do so. 10 more seconds sliding forwards and backwards, and then I promise you can have a rest. Okay, 5 more seconds. My timekeeping's dodgy. And bring that arm down and rest. So now we're going on the other side. Exact same thing. Arm out in front, hand on the sternum, pull the shoulder blade as far up your body as you can. shrugging the shoulder as high to the ear as you can, but bring the shoulder to the ear, not the ear to the shoulder. So shoulder blade up, hold, shoulder blade down, hold. And we're going to move through that, cycling up and down 5 or 6 times. So right up for the second time, and then right down, pausing at the end, squeezing, try and make your muscles work hard to pull that shoulder blade around. Don't confuse it with elbow, spinal and neck movements. Lift it up again. What's this, the third one I think? Hold it up at the top, drop it right back down again, looking for that awareness of what's happening in that shoulder blade and not ending up confusing it with other movements of the arm and the back and the neck. One more up and down. Brilliant. And now we're going to go forwards and backwards. So without taking a break, move into forward and backwards movement, push forward, pull back, keep your heels solid on the ground, hips should be still, spine should be still, hand on the sternum should be still. So sliding forwards and backwards, don't pick up too much speed. We want to make sure we're maximizing what that shoulder blade can do. 10 more seconds sliding forwards and backwards. 5 more. And let that arm come down and relax. Give it a little bit of a shake out. Hand can go on your sternum again. Nice upright stance. Spine is going to stay still. Elbow will be straight and you're going to start lifting your arm out in front of you and you're going to try and get right up to this vertical position. As we go into the back part of the circle, think hard about keeping your sternum hands still. Only reach back what you can do, keeping nice and still through there. So that's a backward circle, and we're going to do that 3 times. So that's 1. Here comes the second. 2. Body completely still, trying to isolate the movement to the shoulder as best you can. Let your arm rotate as feels comfortable. Into the last backward circle on this side. Right round, elbow straight the whole time. Keep pulsing that elbow for straight. Keep checking that sternum for stillness. Brilliant. 3 on that side. Now we're going to switch and we're going to go into the same movement on the other side. So lifting the thumb up, right up to vertical. In these high positions is where we tend to see accidental elbow bend. So try not to fall victim to that. Reach out really straight. Taking care in the back part of the circle to really localize the movement to just the ball and socket of the shoulder. We want that to do all of the work and we don't want too many other things coming to its rescue. 1 more of those. Right up, right back, but not too ambitious in the back part of the circle because we want to make sure we're keeping the body nice and still as we go through that movement. Okay, and we've got some alternatives. Let's go back to the arm we used first. So rather than going backwards this time, I'm going to throw my arm into a forward loop. And this time, rather than trying to stay still, I'm going to keep watching my thumb. So I'm going to start by looking out at my thumb and I'm going to keep my sternum relatively still, but I'm going to keep watching the thumb as it goes around its circle. Nice and high. Using a combination of head movement and eye movement to keep my eyes on my thumb as I move it round my circle. Let's do 3 of these. This is our second, coming right up to the top. Keep your eyes on your thumb. Try and be efficient with your head, your eyes and your neck so you don't over move it to keep eyes on thumb. Last one. Reaching round. Watching, watching, watching the whole way around the circle. Same rules still apply, minimizing body movement, minimizing elbow bend as we do it. Okay, let's have 3 of those on the other side. So hand on sternum, thumb ready to go, watching the thumb as it draws backwards past the hip, out behind, up high, elbow staying straight, all the way around the biggest circle you can muster without feeling like you're over moving the body without swaying on the ground. Eyes on the thumb into that second rotation, making sure you see it the whole way through the back of the movement, moving the spine just enough to keep eyes on hand. Last one, right round, all the way up, reaching for the widest, biggest circle I can get, trying hard to keep my elbows straight as I go through those movements. So now we're going to get down and stretch out our backs and the backs of our legs. Hands down, feet down, and heels hanging off the floor. In this position here, I'm basically going to get into a yoga type downward dog position. So my knees are fairly straight, my bum is very high, my arms are straight, and I'm going to shove my head between my arms. So get yourself into this position, and then from here we're going to keep the bum high and reach one heel towards the floor. So one knee bends, one knee extends, one heel comes up, one heel goes down. Hold that stretch for a couple of seconds and then slowly switch out which heel's lowering and which heel's rising. And take note of any differences in how tight you are down the backs of your legs. As you get lazy with it, like I'm doing here, your bum will sink down, your head will bob up. And so to make it harder, just think head down, bum high, and pump again. How long you keep going for is up to you, but generally we want to think somewhere between sort of 20 to 30 seconds as the absolute minimum. And there's not much point in carrying on after about 2 to 3 minutes of any one exercise. So somewhere in that is where you're going to find the best sweet spot for most of these mobility type exercises. Let's go for another 10 pumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. So from this position, we're going to come down and land our front hips onto the floor. Keep your arms pretty straight, and you'll just drop down into this back extension position. So adjust your hands so that all of your legs are able to touch down onto the ground, and from there we're going to just give the back a good stretch right up into extension. So push the ground away, try and get that sternum vertical, head's fairly relaxed, shoulders don't want to be compressed and shrugged. So think about making your arms long, spreading your shoulder blades wide. Your arms do the work to hold you up so that your back can enjoy the stretch that it's feeling. That's it, enjoy. And then down. And we're going to practice that movement 3 or 4 times. And the big thing, if you need to improve your flexibility here, is make your arms do the work. Don't make your back do the work. Tense muscles go over stiff joints. If you want relaxed muscles, if we want mobile joints, we need relaxed muscles. So if we're trying to gain spinal extension, it should be the arms that are pushing me up into this position, not my back muscles pulling me up into this position. So as you do a few repetitions, try and take note that your arms get tired more than your back does. And you can push up as far as feels like a good idea. A little bit of squeezing discomfort in the back as you do this is usually okay, but we don't want anything that's sharp or really sore with any of these exercises. Surfing's not all just about being bendy. We need to think about getting some strength into our system as well. So we're just going to do a couple of shortish strength exercises within this session. So we're starting from just a crawling position. So I've got vertical arms, vertical thighs, right underneath shoulders and hips. If your wrists don't like this position, no problem with working off your fists for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip toes under, and we're going to get into this position here, which has lots of different names, but we're going to call it low bear, where I'm just hovering my knees off the floor. So I've gone from here to here. As I do that, I don't want to feel like my spine dumps right down this way or curls right up this way. I want to feel like I just push the ground away with my feet and my hands. Now, once we're up here, if it's a challenge, you can just hold this position. Take note of where you are. So the big secret to getting comfortable in this position is understanding that this makes it easier on my legs but harder on my arms, and this makes it easier on my arms but harder on my legs. So you can adjust with how the exercise is hitting you by where you are in that rocking motion. So you're going to get into the middle of that rock and you're going to pull one hand off the deck. So you can take a hand off the deck and then put it back down again. And then you're going to take the other hand off the deck and then you're going to put it back down again. And then you're going to take one foot off the deck and put it back down again, and then on the other foot. And this is round the world. So we're going in a rotation round the body, and as I do it, I think about only moving the limb that I'm pulling off the floor. So pull the hand away, try not to move anything else, and then pop it back down again. Pull the other hand away, try not to move anything else, and pop it back down again. I'm going to try and stay off the floor for about 4 or 5 seconds on each limb as I lift it. And then I can just stay in this position and work round. 1, back to hands again. And as one goes down, the next one comes up. And we just get this gradual, whole body. Everything's working quite hard. Nothing's really getting a rest, and no one bit of your muscular system is being asked too much of. So it's a really safe way to begin strength-based training without flaring up any pre-existing niggles. So let's keep going for another 15 or 20 seconds. I'm just lifting, and as we lift, we try and make just that limb move only. So we don't want big, violent, rocky movements. We want smooth, controlled, subtle movements of limbs away from the floor. Ooh, and down, have a rest. Sit back, have a little stretch out. So the last strength one we'll do is our shoulder tap, and we'll just do that off our knees. So you're coming into a straight hip position like this. So like a kneeling press up position. From there, we're going to make the arms long, so press the ground away, shift the weight slightly to one side, and again, take the hand off the ground. So up to here, and then down again. And I try and maintain the angle between my shoulder and my body as I make that movement. So I don't want to lift up and push the ground away, or lift up and drop down into the ground. I want to be able to lift up and not see any movement in the upper half of the body. And we're just going to work from one side to the other, keeping the ground pushed away, tapping one hand and then the other hand. If that's too easy for you, you can pop up into a press up position and the load gets much harder. If it's too hard for you, bend your hips a little bit and you'll take some weight off your arms like that. Let's keep going for another 3 taps. And then stop, sit back onto your heels, have a little rest. And then at whatever level you found that was challenging but okay, we're going to come back in and do one more set of about a minute. So push the ground away, lift one arm, maintain the right angle in the shoulder, hold for a little longer than last time, and then slowly down. So each time you come off the ground this time, we're going to think about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in that single leg stance before we switch. Single arm stance, sorry. Push the ground away, maintain the T, hold for a slow count to 5, down and over to the other side. And again, just keep that going, trying to hit about a minute. As we're doing it, think about staying nice and in control through your hips and your lower back. So we don't want the bum sagging down and we don't want the hips lifting up towards the ceiling. just straight through the middle, and keep that going for another 3 reps. And if you've chosen well, you should be tiring now. So down, rest, sit back onto your heels, have a good stretch out, let the knees bend, let the hips relax, let the body flop down on top of it all. Such an important position to feel comfortable in, just to let everything stretch right out. Okay, so we're done with our exercises, and it's time to see if we're getting what we're after. So let's have 3 to 5 pops, just to make sure everything feels good and we're not sore anywhere.